Matt Man, just with an update talking about my first chemotherapy session that I had today. Finally was able to knock out those first time jitters. Overall, it took about 4 hours. We got there around 10 a.m. and we left around 2 p.m. How did it work? So before we left for the chemotherapy session, basically we put some numbing cream over my port, covered it up about a half an hour to an hour prior to my appointment, so anytime they accessed the port today, it was numb. As we got there, did the standard check-in process, but it's nice. They only do about 10 to 15 patients a day at this clinic, which is nice, so it's very personal. All the nurses already know who I am. There's only 2 nurses there that work there, Candy and Dawn. They're both really awesome people, so I'm looking forward to, I'm sure I'll get to know them over the hours that I'll be spending there. Order of events though, first thing they did, they accessed the port. It's a sanitary port. The nurse had to cover up her mouth. It had to be like double gloved or whatever. Everything was extra sanitary. I had to face away or I was going to be masked as she accessed the port, just to make sure no infection were to happen. Because again, that goes directly to heart and trying to avoid infection in your heart, which is bad. So, got the blood work knocked out after the port was accessed. She just got a few vials of blood, and it's going to be pretty consistent just to make sure my blood counts and everything's good to go as we go throughout this whole thing. After that, they started with a normal saline for about 45 minutes. I had saline dripping through me. It was a pretty high rate. The nice thing about the port, you can't have those higher rate drips going into your body, which was really cool. After the saline, we had Zofran, which was for nausea, so that was for just a few minutes. The nurse came in just with a vial of saline. She pushed herself just manually through my port. And then after the Zofran, it was just a cocktail of steroids that I took for about 20 minutes. And the steroids just kind of helped inflammation and prepared my body for the drugs that were about to hit me. And that's what I'm still, I think, kind of running high right now on the steroids. They say they last about a day or two in your body, in your system. So after I had the saline, the Zofran for nausea, and the steroids in my body, I just basically sat there for about 30 minutes or so, letting everything kind of sit and circulate through my body prior to starting the actual chemo drugs. The first chemo drug that I took was adriamycin, or doxorubicin, 25 milligrams of that. It took about 15 minutes. That was kind of a weird one. The nurse had to push that one specifically through this big vial. I'll try to find a good picture of it. We took a little video of it earlier too. Either way, just to show you what it looks like. It's like a big red vial of poison. It's kind of weird. The nurse had to wear these special gloves and special outfit to make sure she didn't get any on her. This is one, the nurse had to push it specifically because if it were to be through an IV or even through my port and something were to happen and I start to feel it burning, this is the type of drug that can like eat through your tissue, she said. So it's a pretty crazy drug. This is again the one that causes the hair loss and the mouth sores and a lot of the bad side effects, but it also is able to kill cancer pretty effectively. So that was a doxorubicin there. Big red vial of poison, kind of crazy. The next one was the vinblastine, and that was fine. That one took about 5 minutes. That was just a normal IV, so I was just sitting there for 5 to 10 minutes while the vinblastine was put into my body. The next one was the dacarbazine. They were able to put that in through the IV as well. So that one was longer though. The dacarbazine took about an hour versus the first ones were a little bit less, 15 minutes and 5 to 10 minutes respectively. Then finally, the new drug I was able to get, the brentuximab vedotin, which is that that homing drug that was able to kill just the cancer cells ideally. That one was about 45 minutes or so through the IV again. So the last 3 drugs were relatively normal. I was just able to sit there. The only I would say psychologically interesting one was that big red vial as she kind of pushed that in, and so yeah, that was really it. So after that was done, chemo was done. That was about 4 hours with some setup time in between and the overall kind of time to get all those things into my body. I was able to eat during the chemo and then able to drink, and obviously they recommend drinking as many fluids as you can, and able to get up and pee as much as I wanted as well, which was nice. I just had to bring in the pull with the IVs and stuff. The interesting thing was, the first time I did pee, it was like a Kool-Aid or a pink lemonade color. It was like a red pee. Luckily, the nurse kind of gave me a heads up. She said, "Oh, by the way, that big red vial of poison that I gave you, that's gonna make your pee red for the next day or two, just a heads up." Other things that I learned today in my chemotherapy class that I took during my first chemotherapy session was body fluid toxicity. So my blood, my sweat, my urine, things like that are toxic for about 2 days after my chemotherapy session. So I need to just be very careful with the kids, with Jean and I, if we're going to be intimate, and make sure we have protection. Even when I have my night sweats and I kind of soak the sheets, they say, yeah, you should probably wash those in a separate load just to be safe. Other things I learned, you need to avoid rare meats, raw oysters, buffet restaurants, you know, because they're the perfect example of cleanliness. I need to avoid some medicines because obviously my liver and kidneys are going to be working extra hard right now with all this stuff going through my body. So I need to avoid aspirin, ibuprofen, Aleve. They even said avoid herbal supplements because some of them can mess with the chemotherapy drugs in weird ways. To avoid infection, they recommended a few things. So they recommended no gardening, no fishing. They recommended minimizing your time out in the sun, but still trying to maximize my vitamin D intake. It's a balance there. Obviously avoiding all sick people, which is kind of a joke being that I have 4 kids and it's just basically a rotation of viruses when you have just young kids in the house. But obviously I do my best washing my hands and emphasizing my kids to wash their hands. Avoiding tattoos and manicures. So those are some things I was told to avoid in my chemotherapy class. How am I feeling now? It's been kind of weird. You know, with the steroids, I've been definitely on like a high. I sat and just kind of listened to my body for a little bit just a few minutes ago. And it's weird. I don't know if I'm over-analyzing, but I do kind of feel this cool poison feeling, if you will, through my arms and legs and kind of my chest. I do feel a slight sense of nausea, but I feel like the medicine's holding it back pretty well right now, so I still have a decent appetite. I want to eat and looking forward to eating dinner. They said expect insomnia tonight, so we'll see how that goes. And the only other weird thing that I have felt is some tingling in the end of my fingertips. Nothing crazy, not like I'm losing feeling or anything, just kind of sensations at the end of my fingertips. That's really about it. So for this week, and really every day after I get chemotherapy, I'm going to be going back into the clinic to get a new Lasta shot. It's going to help increase my white blood cell count because obviously there's going to be a lot of casualties in this war, and most of them being my white blood cells, the good white blood cells. So I need to try to boost those as much as we can. I'm planning on hydrating 3 times each week. And my 3 times basically are the chemo day, the day I get my new Lasta shot. I'm going to pick another day in the week, and then the following week I'm just going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to incorporate that into my gym routine, either before or after. I'll figure out which works best. Most likely before, because I don't want to go to the chemotherapy clinic all sweaty and nasty. As far as meds for the week, all it gave me was really nausea meds. So I'm on a regimen of meds for Zofran, so I'm going to be taking it twice a day, morning and night, for the next 4 days. And beyond that, it's just going to be as needed for Zofran. And while I'm taking Zofran, they gave me Compazine to take on top of the Zofran if I'm still feeling nauseous, outside of what the Zofran is able to try to help me out with. So overall, that's kind of my first chemotherapy in a nutshell. If you have any questions about exactly what happened or the feelings or anything else at all, please let me know. The only thing I forgot to mention was the fact that I did get chills while I was getting the actual chemotherapy, so I got a nice warm blanket there, and that obviously took care of that at the hospital. But again, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out, ask questions, and again, I appreciate all the support and love that I've received from everyone. And I will give you an update over the next course of the next few days, let you know how kind of the side effects start to kick in. Apparently, as you go throughout this was just the first induction of poison into my body, and as I continue to get more and more put in my body, that's when the side effects apparently get worse and worse. So we'll see how it all goes. All right, I love you guys. Talk to you later. See ya.